Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the last call. I am Punk Rock Ian. That is a Gabe.
That's a me.
I can hear myself, so I'm going to mute that so there's no echo. Much
Ooh.
better. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to another edition of the last call. Uh, Heads up, this I might be getting rid of this. So next week I might not have the beard. It's starting to annoy me. But it'll come back. I'm not saying it's gone forever, but I'm just usually when I shave, I don't tell anybody, and then I come back, and everybody's just like, "What the fuck?" So I'm giving everybody proper heads up this time.
Why don't you join me in 80s Vice Cop mustache land?
I I've done that before. I did that for a little bit in Michigan. I think maybe a couple months before we started doing this, but at that time I completely shaved the head, so I didn't have the long hair. So, but I did have just the solo stash, which I've never done before. I think that might have been the first time I did that, and it made me feel weird because one of those people I said I'd have a champagne bottle for. I thought I looked a lot like that person, so I'm just like, nah, gotta nah. So that went pretty fast. Although I might try it just with the long hair because that would be a totally different vibe. But
That I'll uh I'll send you a link. One, I can't remember who you said the champagne bottle was for, but two, um, there's a gun tuber named Brandon Herrera, and there's one named Donut Operator. And they did a Miami Vice video where they rocked the Hawaiian shirts, and Brandon they both had long hair at the time, but they did the mustache thing, and I was like, that's right. When I had long hair and a mustache, it did look cool. Thank you. So I'm just saying, it's it's a good option to have. I went from being strictly beard to mustache, and I don't feel like I've lost a whole lot. The mustache needs to make a comeback, a valid comeback.
um, so interesting small story. I said I had a story I'll tell you now, one I'll tell you on the show. Now,
Yep.
for those that may already know this story, I'm sorry, but I just found this shit out today. And I found it fascinating. So as you know, I was telling you I was listening to the podcast with Dude, and
Mm-hmm.
fucking, they were talking about the sports announcer, the Bruce Buffer
Yeah.
and Mike Buffer. Did you know about their story?
No.
Okay, this shit was crazy to me. All right, now, so we got Mike Buffer, who's the older. All right, and he is the famous one for the "Let's get ready to rumble." He's that guy. Okay. And then we got Bruce Buffer, who's current. He does most of the UFC stuff. He's the "it's time" guy, you know?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, all right. Now they're brothers, but they didn't realize and meet until they were in their 30s.
Shit, I didn't know it either.
Yeah. And I was just like, how fucking weird is it that two people who are actually brothers that never met end up doing the same shit and become iconic at it? Like that niche profession.
That would be like finding out that Don LaFontaine, who did all the 1980s action movies, in a world where Schwarzenegger's daughter got kidnapped for the 16th time in 1985, that guy. That would be like him and the guy who did the Orion Pictures and Canon Pictures voice. They were brothers and didn't know it because it's the same sort of thing. You would recognize the voice of the guy from the trailer from the 80s. Everybody
Mhm.
does, and
Yeah.
you don't even have to have seen the movie and you know that. So,
I mean, it would either be, I'm like, okay, it's either the guy who normally does it or that's Pablo Francisco. If people even remember that comedian, he was very funny at the time. But
he
he
did
did a
a very
great,
good skit.
yeah.
They're after my tortillas. Yeah, I remember that guy.
Yes, yes.
Hey,
um,
great comedian.
uh, but what's crazy is so like I said, so the older Mike Buffer, he was already doing his thing. He was the let's get ready to rumble dude. Now, when UFC start, now I only heard the story once, so I'm vaguely sure I'm pretty correct, but I might fuck up a few details. But the gist of it is, when UFC first started, they didn't have no fucking money. Nobody really gave a shit.
Right.
Um, they wanted Mike Buffer, but they couldn't fucking afford him. And so, but they knew Bruce. Obviously, they didn't realize they were related, but they're just like, why don't you be our announcer? You kind of look like that guy, and ironically, you've got the same last name. He had never been an announcer before. So that's how he learned to become an announcer. And as things went along, they realized like, we do look a lot alike and we have the same exact last name.
Is your mom named Martha too?
Exactly. Did we just become best friends?
No, we became brothers.
Exactly. But I thought that was absolutely hilarious because I was just like, what are the odds of that?
You couldn't put a Vegas line on it because they would even
No.
say
We're
you
not
can
we're
throw
not
your
the
money
house
away on that
the
one.
house is not interested in this one.
Jesus Christ. See, that's the kind of thing that absolutely just blows my mind because I don't think the last name Buffer is quite that common either. So it was like, at what point did the light bulb go off and they were
Yeah.
like,
Well, it took him about 30 years. But to be fair, like I said, the younger, he didn't get into it until a little bit later. So I think it was somebody related to the older Buffer saw the younger one on TV doing his thing, and he was the one that had the light bulb go off, and he's like, "You might want to look into this." Because it's like either you got a lawsuit or you got a family member you didn't know.
wow. That's. I'm having a hard time processing this. It's like I just found out that Bruce Buffer was my brother.
Yeah, it's like I was sitting in the car waiting for the kids to get out of school, just listening to that show, and then they started talking about that. And I'm like, first off, I felt like a dumbass because honestly, I thought that I didn't realize that they were two separate people. I thought though it was the same person that was, you know. um, but then I was like, oh yeah, that makes more sense.
I the knowledge drop tonight. It's just,
Oh.
I, I'm ashamed too. I didn't connect the dots, and we live in an internet age where it was like there's a Wikipedia article on Mike Buffer.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
would
well,
have his
yeah,
sibling
I double
listed.
I heard it and I double checked it. I mean, I understand Wikipedia is public, but still, I double checked it. I'm like, nope, there it is under personal information. It's like, yeah, this is their brothers. They didn't know till they were in their 30s. And I was
Is
like,
that
wow, that's fucking crazy.
is that like how people forget that that Kate Hudson is Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's daughter? It's like on the opposite end of the
I
spectrum, I
knew
guess.
that, but I always forget it until it's brought up again.
It,
And then what was it? Who else is there? There's some other fucking people too.
oh wait, no, technically Kurt Russell's stepdad, but that's like the coolest stepdad ever. My bad.
Well, wasn't they were just saying that was it because it wasn't the dad and then Kurt Russell and then his son, like all three of them are actors. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's Kurt Russell's dad or his stepdad, but his father figure in some way or form.
yeah. Okay, so Wyatt Russell, the son,
Yeah.
is, and then let's see, uh, Bing Russell. He was also a baseball player, which I think Kurt Russell was a baseball player too. Class A minor league player.
That's not nothing.
That's not nothing.
But yeah, so a lot of interesting, fun stories that I heard today. Now, on to the topic, sir. Um, First off, now I posted this. I need to just go ahead and so I went ahead and I made the in memoriam section, which I already had to put in one. Um,
Got another one today too.
oh shit, I didn't. I've actually been pretty busy today, so I didn't say who was today.
Jeff Beck,
Was it? That sounds familiar.
guitarist.
Yeah, I was about to say. I'm like, yeah, shit, damn.
That's
Um,
exactly what I said when I read it too.
Now I'm thinking that I might add another section just for trailers. So I'm because like I never know where to put fucking trailers when I find them. So I might just make a trailer section in the
Oh
Discord.
yeah.
But now I posted this one, and I don't know if we got a chance to talk about it, but it looked really fucking funny, and I'm pretty excited for it. But that was that Renfield, the one with our
Yeah.
good friend Nick Cage once again, just fucking being Nick Cage. But this time it's Nick Cage as Dracula.
And it looks absurd.
It looks hilarious. Like I like the premise where it's Renfield like going to a self-help group. I'm in a toxic relationship.
If we come full circle with the self-aware humor, is that where we're at now? Finally, it's like it's finally come back around.
I'm thinking that because you don't see you hear Nick Cage talk, but you don't really see him a whole lot in the trailer. Like you see him for a few scenes. He's not like completely absent, but um, the movie, it obviously it focuses more on Renfield, so we're gonna see more of him. But his look, I couldn't help but think I'm like because Nick Cage couldn't not be Nick Cage even if he tried. So there's always to some varying degree in whatever it is that he does that it's just that's just Nick Cage. That's not an acting thing. That's just him being him. And it comes in varying degrees depending on the role. But when I saw this, I immediately thought the Dracula from Symphony of the Night, like what is a man? I thought that, but he had gone to Hot Topic and was also Nick Cage.
Now, you've put a dangerous idea in my head here. If they ever remake Symphony of the Night, he's got to play Dracula.
What is a man? What is
He
a
could probably make
cage?
that line actually work.
Yeah, he could. But it looked absolutely delightful. I had no idea that this was happening. But that's usually how it goes with Nick Cage movies. You just kind of his trailers just pop up, and you're like, oh shit, that's another thing.
Is it like when the movie about himself came out and everybody was like, "That's the most Nick Cage thing I've ever seen."
And I like that you see that's kind of a move somebody does as like their last thing in their career. But he's just like, nah, I'm not done. He's like, that's just another like that's part one. I still got a lot of shit to do.
It's like Christopher Walken in the sense that Christopher Walken has never turned down a role because he likes to act, and he says even the worst things possible are opportunities to get better, and I respect. Nick Cage though, people forget he's an award-winning actor.
Yeah.
Like the '80s were really good to him, and then he started buying castles and shit, and started just acting in everything.
Whatnot. I'm trying to think like when did that happen? Like I'm thinking that I'm because there was Nick Cage the actor, and then at one point he just became Nick Cage. And I'm trying to figure out when that happened because he stopped being an actor and he's just Nick Cage, and I mean that in a good way. But
National Treasure.
well, I don't know that still felt like actor. Now I know that this was beforehand, but I think the early signs that I remember seeing that shit was somewhere between Gone in 60 Seconds, which is a good movie. I'm not talking shit about that movie, but that was like, I don't know why, but that little thing that he does, and I'm like, that's where it starts. Like, and then the footage that got released um way back when he was going to be Superman. And now that never obviously fucking happened, but there's footage of him in a hotel room and they're trying on the costume. So it's Nick Cage in a real Superman suit and people were serious about this. But he had like the Con Air hair.
Oh,
And it I'm not going to say it was bad, but at the same time I'm like probably best that they went another direction.
probably a good call.
Of
You know
course,
what?
they stopped that, but then they put Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, and I'm not talking shit about Kevin Spacey, the actor. All right, person wise, well, that's another day. Now,
That's a conversation that has a lot of asterisks on them.
right, but I love Kevin Spacey, the actor, but him as Lex Luthor was so weird to me. And not to say, like, I understand he was going Gene Hackman like Lex Luthor. I get that, but it just didn't work for me. I'm like, are you sure you're Lex, or are you trying to be like a serious Doctor Evil?
Which is funny because he played Doctor Evil in Goldmember,
Yeah.
in the parody, and that was his first mistake anyway, was trying to be Gene Hackman. When Gene Hackman brought a very particular level of intensity to that role, when Kevin Spacey, the actor, can bring a certain level of intensity to a role. If you look at, the one that I think pops out most is Usual Suspects, because he plays a sociopath oddly really well.
Yeah, well, that and like Seven and fucking what was the other one? The one that I really really liked. Something it had Kate Winslet, something David Gale. He was in prison for like murdering his wife,
I think it's
and he
just
was
the
on
life of
death.
David Gale.
Yeah, the life of David. Yeah. She was like an investigative reporter, and like it was like weird because he was on death row, but he was like a death row advocate for people who are innocently put to. It was you could see the twist coming a mile away, but it was still a good movie.
It it was before the warning signs.
Yeah.
It was before House of Cards, where we were all like, "Wow, he seems really into this role."
Yeah, that okay. That's might be the only W I give Kevin Spacey the person. I know it comes from a weird, but him doing those Christmas videos as Frank, like, I just want to know who, like, his lawyers and shit. Like, when they saw that shit the next day and they were just like, fuck. I'm like, this is just quality entertainment from someone who's clearly deranged. Unless he was intentionally trying to go the insanity route.
Well, shit. I mean, you could allegedly.
Allegedly.
You could start rolling that back to American Beauty and say that was when the crazy started. But we're not going to do that here because we do not speak on rumor.
No.
Only on fact.
Now there were two other trailers that I saw. One of which I'm only going to talk about very, very briefly. Because A, I was just like, why are we doing this again? And B, if you're going to do this again, there is a certain signature thing that you have to have. And I did not see it in the trailer. And I'm pissed.
Okay.
If we're going to fucking bring back House Party.
Oh, God. Is that the one with LeBron?
And none of the two main people in the trailer that I saw has the hair. The kid hair. I mean, I understand modern times doesn't call for that hairstyling. I get it. I get it. But if you're gonna fucking do house party.
And I apologize for jumping in there because I had to remember that I had seen that trailer already. That was on the Dawn of the Dead 3D trailer reel.
Oh Jesus. I can see how it was easy to block that out then.
Yes, because immediately after I forgot. I don't even.
You didn't even remember how you got there. You were just watching the movie.
I blacked out for that little in between there, and I think the menu was in the on the trailer reel for that too. But that might, yeah, it was.
I still need to see that. I heard that was really good.
As well. But I remember it now because I was like, I looked over at Chandler and I was like, is this House Party?
Am I having a moment? Like, didn't we do this 3 times in the 90s?
But logistically, you know, we've talked about horror movies, how the cell phone generation has kind of killed the horror movie because certain people don't understand the fear that you would feel in certain things because you could just say, well, I just pull out my phone and call the cops, or I would, you know, even though there's cell phone blocking technology and shit. But for a house party like that, LeBron don't have security? You think you pissed off the entire city of Cleveland and you don't have security?
This is true. These are facts.
See, we only speak facts here.
But yeah, I saw that and I'm like, well, I really hope the Kid and Play at least fucking show up. They might have been in the trailer and I just missed it, but I really hope at the very least they have a cameo. I don't understand. Like, I didn't see who was putting it out. And I don't even know if I want to know because that might make me even more angry. But I'm sure you just saw who it was too.
No, I forgot that there is an adult themed game on Steam called House Party that takes place on a college campus and it has 9 out of 10 stars on Steam. And I was looking, I was like, dang, the House Party remake's got 9 out of, that means it's in the IMDb top 10. And then I was like, oh, wait, you don't need DirectX 11 with a GPU to watch the House Party remake. Although it probably would help. Who is putting this out, actually?
I don't understand how a company is sitting there looking at material to make a movie out of. And like, you mean to tell me you had nothing else to the point where you had to reach at the bottom of the dollar barrel for House Party? Like, you couldn't, there wasn't anything original laying around that just you could have half-assed. like who said House Party and a room of other people were like, yeah, it's about time.
Are you going to be surprised or angry when I tell you who did?
I'm trying to remember. This seems Dimension's not still around, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't
they
think
got bought up.
I didn't think so, but like I'm like I could see it being one of that if they were still around, but I'm gonna have to go. I always pick on them. I make fun of them so much, and that they do good stuff from time to time. But I'm gonna have to go with New Line because it if it's Warner Brothers, I'm gonna be very angry.
Oh, Ian, let me add icing on the cake. Spring Hill Entertainment and the Hideaway Entertainment are production companies on it, but so is New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers handled the distribution for the U.S. theatrical, Netherlands, Germany, and HBO Max is handling the VOD.
All right. Well,
so
they
both.
didn't. They're just trying to. Okay, if they're only doing distribution, I can.
Oh no,
It
they're
is
not
what it
just
is.
doing distribution. They're listed under production as well. It's a joint effort. but not the kind of joint effort that viewers of our show and all would like.
Whenever I hear the term joint effort, I think of that scene in How High. It's like, you got blunts, I got weed.
I haven't said that in so long.
But
And it releases
God
this
damn.
Friday.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me that New Line's got their fucking hands in this pocket, because that, like I said, I make fun of them so much, and I really feel bad about making fun of them, but at the same time, I'm just like, this just seems like some stupid shit that they would do.
Would you like me to add on to your frustration at the moment?
Hmm.
Because I'm getting really good at this. The director, um, I'm probably going to mispronounce this. Colmatic did some Pharrell music videos and the like. He's a 20 credit now profile.
I mean, that
He's
makes
also
sense. If it's somebody that made that, got their start doing music videos and stuff, then all right, that makes sense. It's fucking house party. I get it, but that makes sense.
he's also remaking White Men Can't Jump with Lance Reddick, which is that's a good sign. I like Lance Reddick, but I'm also questioning
Wh-
why.
Why? Like, and again, I'm not talking shit about that movie either. I mean, but like, that's fucking. Whenever I hear that title, I only want to think about fucking, what is it? Woody Harrelson, Rosie Perez, and fucking, that wasn't Wesley Snipes, was it?
Yes.
Who it was? Okay, I was just making sure. Like, whenever I hear White Men Can't Jump, those are the only three names that I ever want to hear. All right, and that's how it needs to stay. Uh, but why? Why? The only thing that makes sense to me is that they saw what fucking happened to Top Gun, and for some reason, somebody's just like, if Top Gun can do it, House Party can do it, because that's a fucking ridiculous mindset to be in. But I can see it.
I can see it, but I don't exactly condone it myself. But I shit on remakes a lot, but but remakes typically, to be serious for a moment, are not necessarily made for us. They're made to bring in a new generation, and the argument always is the old movie's still going to be there, and
Of
the new
course.
movie isn't for you. Which I
Yeah.
also hate that because that sounds very
I don't want to say gatekeeperish, but that
it's
seems like a
gatekeeperish.
play out of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a play out of that book. And you're right, and it is, it at the very least it'll drum up interest in the original. Um, but I just the only rebuttal that I have to it that bothers me is I'm like, there was nothing else to choose from. There was nothing original. I'm not gonna shit on remakes entirely, because sometimes we get good things when it's done, when it's chosen for the right reasons. But if it's just like, like I said, if somebody was just like, well, Top Gun made a bunch of fucking movies, let's fucking bring back White Men Can't Jump. Like,
Which
I don't understand how anybody would take that suggestion seriously. Like, it's like, I don't get it.
I mean, Ian, it's already in post production. So somebody took it way serious than if they were able to, and that's okay. I mean I really do feel though that we have reached the point though that, and I'm not trying to have my brain go to a negative spot here, but it seems like you make the remake not to overshadow the original, but if the original is that good or that well loved, the people who go and see the remake are going to go pick up an older copy of it and be like, why the hell did I waste my time with the remake when the original was out there? But they've already got your money at that point, so fuck you. But
The two that I still hold out danger signs for, one of which, as of late, I think actually is a lot more in danger of actually happening than I wanted to, but being Back to the Future. I do not want a new Back to the Future. If it's a
yep.
continuation, like a part four, depending on what you want to do, I'm willing to listen. but I don't want to complete. I don't want a new Marty. I don't want a new fucking Doc. I don't want a new Einstein. Um, but um, Christopher Lloyd has been pretty adamantly put. Well, and I'm not even making fun of this either because I actually applaud this. But I think a relative of his is in charge of his Twitter account because Christopher Lloyd's fucking old as shit.
Yeah,
Um,
he's up
but
there.
the person like publicly, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm the one doing this, so everybody knows. Like, don't think it's literally him." So I was like, I applaud. I'm like, hey, somebody's being honest. But he tweets what Christopher Lloyd wants him to say, and he's pretty adamant about them doing a new Back to the Future, and I'm just like, please don't do that. But so the one that I think is safe to a certain degree is Jaws
Yeah,
because ain't nobody gonna fuck with an anime like Spielberg was very uh vocal about the annoyances of having to work with what he was working with. And two, the CG is not. I mean, it doesn't matter if the Meg is a good movie or not. It's not a real shark.
and that's where practical effects take you into a different realm. Like the thing. Why is the thing still scary? 40 years later, 41 years later now.
Hmm.
Um, it's because there's no CG. It's practical and you can see it and it's tangible. That's the other part. Dario Argento talked about that in an interview where he said, I don't like to kill my people with like bullets and things because the average moviegoer doesn't know what it feels like to be shot. Thank God.
Ooh.
And he was like, in
Yeah.
Deep Red, when he smashes the dude's teeth on the mantle, people
That's
know how
something.
that feels.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and just now it's making my mouth hurt. And you cut your hand, with a knife, stuff like that. That's tangible stuff. Same goes for movie monsters too, where that shark is an animatronic, but it's real. There's no shroud around it because they have to put a mat on the back to get the shark there and all of that. There's something to be said about that.
Is it
Back
is it is it just me, or is it that signature photo of Spielberg just kind of lounging
in the
in the
shark's mouth
Jaws mouth? Does that fucking just make you so nervous every time you see it? Because you're like,
every single
this
time.
is like the '70s. This is a poorly put together robot with electronics, and it's in the water, and you are in a clamp.
It makes me think of Naked Gun when OJ gets crimped in the bed and his spine
Mhm.
like that. That's the kind of nightmare scenario. Also, back to the gatekeeping point,
Hmm.
which I'm gonna. The movie wasn't made for you. That's what they said about Ghostbusters 2016 until Ghostbusters Afterlife came out and they were like, wait a minute, that's what it was supposed to be. That gives people something, or that gives the kids something to look up to that they didn't have before, because I think Afterlife did a better job of it than 2016 did. So, hindsight's a bitch in a lot of cases, but in that case, it does kind of seem gatekeeping when you say that. Because movie studios aren't going to put 20-30 million dollars into something that's going to hit a narrow margin. They need to make money to get it back to be able to keep making stuff. So double-edged
Well,
sword.
the other thing on practical effects too is I notice this every more and more every time I see it. And I've known it when I see it, but I think over the last year or two, like when I actually see it, I get more and more impressed. Just the simplicity of like, doing that shot, like if there's like tendrils or whatever, like it's done in reverse, to make it look like it's coming out versus going in. That the age old trick of reverse photography, if you will.
Yes.
Um, I just it's so simple, the idea of it, but when I see it done well, I'm just like, it's fucking perfect. It just puts a smile on my face.
One of the best, and I gotta thank Chandler for getting me the Tom Savini book for Christmas. And I've known this one for a while because I I've said, I've seen Dawn of the Dead probably more times than I should.
Mhm.
But the machete to the head, it's an effect that you can explain in 3 sentences. Shot of machete in hand, cut out in the zombie's face that they film in reverse of him pulling out, so it looks like it's going in, and then your after shot with the prosthetic applied.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's simple stuff like that that when you're watching the movie too, and you I know you remember it because I think we talked about it, where whenever the machete hits that zombie, there's this audible thump of it like going against the head. Foley guy did a great job with that. That's something you can feel.
Yeah.
And and I think that's one reason why I'm glad we chose low budget stuff to look at and old horror movies and stuff, because there's not a lack of that when we go and watch the stuff. Although I'm interested in the kills in L.A. Age Jabber. I really don't know how that one's gonna work.
That's the current Holy Grail until we watch it.
I'll acquire it one of these days. But there's something to be said about, and I think that's one of the most intelligent things that Argento has ever said, other than a comment that would probably be misogynistic by any standard, which is, I would rather kill beautiful women than ugly women on camera. And
I mean, from a marketing standpoint, that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
From a moral standpoint, you probably shouldn't say that. What's the say? You said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
don't do that.
I'll put it this way. When you got the original Friday the 13th, the banana girl, she may be
Part 4.
Oh, part 4. Sorry.
Part 4. That's
part
final
4.
chapter. I knew exactly.
She may be the better actor on paper, but I guarantee you that is the last scene anybody pauses at or rewinds for whatever reason. Allegedly. She ain't a part of that. So, and like I said, she may be the better actor. She probably is. Or what?
Yeah.
I don't know what she's up to nowadays. But, I mean, when you're making a movie... Sparrow, hello.
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
Good to see you. Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I mean, that's the thing too, because we've also talked about how Italian movies are a lot of times style over substance anyway, so it's good to look at, but sometimes the plots aren't exactly there. Although American Rickshaw, there might have been too much, but another day. I kind of get it in that standpoint though, because I mean, a lot of to quote the great Chris Jericho, why do you watch a sleazy 80s movie when you're a teenage boy? You're probably going to see some boobs. And he's got a really good point, because I mean, even not to throw myself under the bus here, but even as a youth, I remember that was one of the selling points of watching the horror movie was like, hey, you get to see the forbidden fruit. And
it was always secondary for me. I'm not saying that it wasn't a part of the equation. It definitely was. But like I said, I was actually the weird kid that was like, I watched Friday the 13th mainly for Jason. Like I said, I did. Nobody would ever let anybody do it nowadays. But in 5th grade, I stood up in front of the class and explained for my book report of that Friday the 13th book I read, and explained how each person got killed in graphic detail.
and for me as a kid too, because I mean, we were watching it on like we were watching it on like AMC and stuff originally. Yeah. And for me it was secondary too, because I wanted to be like, oh, this is what that Holy Grail R-rated stuff is that the other kids who were lying their asses off, and I know they were in hindsight now lying their asses off about what was shown in the movies and everything. It's like, wow, I'm actually getting to sit here and watch this, and actually, I can see why this is scary. Now, in hindsight, Maximum Overdrive isn't really that scary, but through the eyes of a 6-year-old, yeah, that's pretty terrifying, because ice cream.
Trying to imagine that if I would have seen that movie for the first time around the same time that I first started playing Twisted Metal, I would have been a happy fucking kid. I would have been on top of the world.
Fair enough. I mean, and that's finding little connections like that to what you're already doing, especially I had one of those midlife crisis moments where I was like, nothing's going to be the same as it was when I was 30 years ago or whatever, or 25 years ago or whatever. And making those little connections and having the imagination for all of it too. It was like, Maximum Overdrive, Twisted Metal, boom, easy. Them Body Harvest on N64, boom. You've got all of this little stuff that took you to another place that I don't think you can capture as an adult quite as easy now because you've already seen it 1,000 times. But then there are, mine's Dawn of the Dead, Chandler's is Halloween, yours is probably Friday the 13th, where you do get brought back to that moment, and it's a special moment because the movie holds something special to you.
Yeah, there's always, it's somewhere between, and it's part four. It always happens when I'm watching part four. Um, it's somewhere between when homeboy that fucking is out looking for his relative, when he's in his tent, before the girl shows up, Corey Feldman's sister. Uh, somewhere between him being in his tent at night versus when Jason is like just busts through the fucking door, RoboCop style. Um, somewhere in there, I always have a flash moment, and I'm like, I'm watching this in my old room where I saw this for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's always somewhere in that section of the movie. Never in the beginning or, the die. None, it's just somewhere in there it happens where like I have a flash and I'm like, I'm sitting on the mattress on the floor, the TV's right there, I got the cable box, you know.
And you're just having a ball.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's only that movie that I really that and maybe Leprechaun in Space.
Jesus Christ, that's a good one. That's a good one for that kind of moment. I
Mm.
I think I think mine, Halloween 2, the bloodletting scene, because I can get brought back to um the living room of the house I'm currently in. Whenever the living room was set up a very particular way, I remember as a kid, and me and Chandler, I owe my brother a lot for getting me introduced into horror, and then us kind of branching out to our particular sides. Chandler's diehard John Carpenter dude, which hard not to be. My thing was George Romero movies and Italian movies because I was just like, this is crazy, and I love it. I love it because it makes no sense. This is great. I was doomed from the get go. Getting those moments brought back though, no matter how insignificant they may feel or tiny, that's the power of the movie over us. At the end of the day, it's what brought us here. It's what gets us into communities where we're able to sit around and talk about American Rickshaw, Hellmaster, the lower budget stuff, but also In the Mouth of Madness, Prince of Darkness, the John Carpenter's Vampire, all of that kind of stuff too. We're all over the place. It's fantastic.
So there's one other trailer I saw, and I'm assuming anybody who watches us regularly knows what trailer I'm about to talk about. I must have watched this trailer 1,000 times already. I've never been more that I'm Avengers level excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. All right, this shit. All right, I'm not gonna say that everything during Phase 4 was great. It wasn't. I'm not gonna say anything was particularly bad. I think the lowest of the low was fucking Thor: Love and Thunder. Um,
Shouldn't have been.
shouldn't have been. Shouldn't definitely not have been. And then also, She-Hulk was just a fucking mess, and that shouldn't have been. But there are some movies I get excited for anything Marvel because I'm just that fucking guy. But
Sure.
some movies I have a hype level for more than others, and this one is like I'm like right up there with like Infinity War. Maybe not Endgame yet, but I'm up there for it because this is looking awesome. And like I said, I think when I sent you the trailer, I was just like my boy Jonathan Majors fucking just killing it. Like I'm all in for this dude in anything that he does. I can't wait for fucking what was it Creed 3, and I have
Yeah,
never even watched the other fucking two. I'm gonna watch the other two just for this one.
dude. I mean, I missed the Creed movies too, and that one got me hyped up to sit through from Rocky One all the way up to it at this point. Which
I watched the majority of the Rocky movies in Michigan with the missus. Um, I was horribly, and I've been reading up on Stallone not being too happy about these Creed movies. Um, but I heard because a lot of people always fucking dwell on four, Rocky Four, and
he brought down the Berlin Wall and he ended the Cold War. I'm just saying.
but he I'm due for oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh,
Um,
it's coming.
but if now see we did, apparently I from what I've heard is Stallone fucking put out his own cut of four,
Yes, he did.
and while I understand what's going on in his head, surprisingly, um, I think he removed my favorite part of that whole fucking movie, and that's the robot.
Robot. Yeah, he did.
Fucking Polly's robot, man. Like that makes that movie because
Hey,
there's so much high tension. There's so much crap going on, but yet you got Paul because I love Polly. All right, Polly was great, and to see him hook up with this robot because that's what they were implying too. That he's banging that robot.
it, uh, for my Fallout New Vegas friends who haven't seen Rocky Four, think Fisto.
Yeah. So I'm just like it comes happy birthday, Paulie. I'm like I'm like, so if we do a marathon, we need the robot version. I will never. I have much respect for Stallone, but I will never watch his version of Rocky Four because that robot fucking makes it for me.
I, I want to watch it, but the robot's ridiculous. But it's a sign of the
Before it's time.
times. It's a sign of the times. He should have just left it, but I get it. It's his movie. He can do whatever he wants to. And again, we have both cuts. I think if you buy the disc that it's on, it has both on it. So you might
Good.
as well. Yeah, you have the option. I, but why would you get rid of something as iconic as that? Because what was the '80s about? Weird science.
Yep.
There you go. That's it. That's all I have to say.
I
about
mean,
it.
it's like you had your, I forget what the fucking robot's name was, but the Danger Will Robinson fucking robot from Lost in Space. Again, and that's what
Oh,
it reminded me of a combination of that robot and a fucking. Remember that toy, the Simon Says toy with the glowing lights, and you had to follow the pattern and shit like that. I'm like,
yes.
I'm like, it's a combination of those two fucking things. But it's like, what do you got in that movie? You got the Cold War going on, and you got robot. This is as 80s as it fucking gets.
You have '80s inspirational rock that doesn't suck with Robert Tapper in it, and Survivor with Burning Heart, which are both fire jams. Vince DiCola does the soundtrack for the montage, and everybody knows the montage thanks to Family Guy and the Star Wars special, which also Vince DiCola did a game that's on the PlayStation Store called Saturday Morning RPG.
Stuff
Interesting.
bomber cutaway.
All they need was the SR-71 flies over as soon as Rocky wins and the pilot goes. Yeah, I
But
totally fine with that.
but getting back to Ant-Man, um, like you said, I really it's Blue Angel stunts. I'm super hyped for this, which I like the other two Ant-Man movies. Like I've heard them referred to as palate cleanser movies, like of the MCU. And I agree with that. And when you look at him like that, because I mean, you can't hate Paul Rudd. He's fucking great. But
Yeah.
um, in terms of like, if you want your comic book movies to be serious and have like serious fucking situations and whatnot, I can understand that you might not really dig the Ant-Man movies because they're just fun. That's that. There's nothing super serious about them. But this
Mhm.
one, it doesn't look like we're having any fun. It's action and craziness. And my only I only have one hesitation about this is because I was really, really fucking hyped for Doctor Strange 2.
Mhm.
And I didn't not like the movie, but like I said, I was going in, I'm like, all right, this is when they're bringing in House of M shit from comic book stuff. And I went into that movie like I set my expectations too high. Yeah.
Uh,
Because I'm like, all right, this is where we're gonna see some shit, you know, and it was we saw some shit, but we only saw maybe 10% of the shit that I expected to see. um, so that movie, while it's a quality movie, I always feel weird about it. Like I've tried to rewatch it I mean, I've seen it a good couple of times, but whenever that one comes up to put on, I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I want to watch this one. It's a shame because I love Sam Raimi. It's just because of the experience that I had where I'm just like, there's maybe a few key scenes that are really fucking dope in this, but then the things that I thought would be in there that aren't, I'm like, ah.
yeah. That I hate that we do that to ourselves. That's the weirdest phenomena I think is
Hmm.
that why when we hear certain things. You hear Sam Raimi's doing a superhero movie. You're all in. Our lovable hot dog vendor. I think he's been a hot
Yeah.
dog vendor in 2 movies now. Um,
I
uh,
love that he was the post-credit scene too. It's finally over.
oh shit. Okay. All right. I got to sit down and friggin' watch this finally. But when we did, I hope I wasn't just having a stroke there.
Mhm.
When when we sit down and we watch trailers and stuff, I know I've talked about it before. I came from the Metal Gear fandom pretty heavy, and like when Metal Gear Solid 5 came out with the New Order Elegia trailer, everybody's theories were racing, everybody's minds were racing that this is going to be a half horror game, half action game. Like, people spent so much time analyzing. Oh, I just got my answer. People spend too much time analyzing and not enough time enjoying. That's what it
Yeah.
comes down to, and that's fine. Analyzing's great, and I do it too because you're getting your mind going. You're getting creative with it. You're thinking, man, this could really go these places. But I think some people get to a certain point where they are certain, and certainty in something that you had no part of is kind of dangerous. The only time I think it ever paid off for me was when I went to go see The Village with my brother and my parents, and I was sitting there with my dad, and I was like, they're probably out in the woods somewhere in 1999. And we got to the end of the movie, and we were like, shit, I could have went next door and watched Star Wars. Fuck.
Yeah. Now, as for fame, as tradition that I like to do, which we've yet to have a payoff yet, because I think I've only made one actual prediction live on the show, but the movie hasn't come out yet, so we still don't know if I'm right for who lives and who dies in Guardians 3.
Sure.
But I want to do and the only reason I decided to do predictions for Ant-Man is because uh, there's a lot of chatter where a lot of people think he's gonna fucking die in this. And I do not think. Ant-Man will die because everybody loves Paul Rudd. Like this is obviously going to be a way more serious movie than the previous two Ant-Man movies. I think that that alone needs to be it, and don't add a death on top of it. That's just it's overload. It's too much. Um, Now what I think's gonna happen, uh, I think that fucking what's his name, Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer might go because they're kind of expendable and they're veteran actors. I don't know what their going rate is, but I'm sure it's not cheap, especially Michael Douglas.
Well,
Um,
every sequel too, and any
yeah,
appearance he gets, I mean, you have to.
goes up.
Yep.
So I think that either one or both of them will go. I do not think Scott will die. I think he may become trapped or imprisoned at some point and not able to return from the quantum realm, but his daughter will, and she's already in the trailer. She's got her own suit, and they're setting up all the other young Avengers, and she's a part of that shit. So her dad being imprisoned or whatever could be her motivation to finally start going out doing shit. So I think that's as far as we go with the deaths and stuff. I think at the very least it'll be Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas, but Cassie's not going anywhere because they're setting up Young Avengers, and I think it would be a really dumb idea to get rid of Paul Rudd. People are still pissed about Chris Evans and fucking uh uh Robert Downey, not which I said they're coming back. All right, secret even if it's just for one movie, they're coming back.
Yeah, I, my ass is still over here salty as hell that they let Captain America ride off in the sunset when there were other characters who probably should have ridden off into the sunset.
Well,
But
if you're referring to who I'm thinking of, are you saying somebody instead of Captain America, or are you referring to who he rode off with?
I'm more referring to the fact that Cap had a hard time in the movies, and
Yeah.
I give him that. However, the weight that he carries in those movies, to have him at the end, it showed him being ultimately good, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what you can take away from it, and that's fine. But there were other things that could have happened that could have set things off in a way. And I'm not saying that Tony shouldn't have went, because I appreciated what they did there. I thought that he was technically speaking the OG, unless you want to count Eric Bana
Yeah.
as the Hulk. So fine, but I don't know. It just seemed kind of, after every fucking thing that happened in that movie, and after everything that happened in the last movie, give us a little something. Give us a little something. Don't be afraid to end on a downbeat.
Well, I think they did end it. They had a fucking huge funeral.
Yeah, they did. They did, but they have that little moment afterwards where Cap goes back and acts like
Yeah.
Cap.
Now, I'm fine with that because, like you said, he did not have an easy go at all throughout his entire presence in there. So I was happy to see him get a win. Uh, but and it's like I agree. If there's one thing you need to keep, whether or not he's going to be in the movies or not, I just think having somebody who's stuck out of time like that, like just if that's the only thing that weighs on him, like give him a bunch of other wins. But if that just always have that being the thing weighing him down. Um, but there was another route that he could have gone with somebody else, but I think that if you looked at it on paper, like that's actually kind of creepy. And they ended up doing something with that character later on, which you'll get to.
And that's fine. I'm not saying that it had to end on Watchmen levels of depression either. But he's a tragic character, and I do like the notion of redeeming him at the end. I'm not saying I completely hate it, but having him end on a tragic note, I think really sells the point that Captain America is a tragic hero that was trapped lost his entire existence. The only existence that he had left was Bucky, and you know that caused an entire movie called Civil War that where he had to fight for his friend, which I consider that a win because he did. He redeemed Bucky. That's the biggest win of all.
Uh,
After
yeah. And as a plus note, though, I think that him doing what he did and going out the way that he did, it set the stage for a lot of people shit on Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Disney Plus series. I thought it was really fucking great. There's a
the
small
buddy cop,
section of
the
kind of,
buddy
yeah.
cop movie
Yeah,
or
yeah.
show, yeah,
There's a small section of it that I'm like, this could have been a little bit better. But from what I found out, it did have a fully developed thing. It's just that this one small aspect of the series, like they're like, all right, let's edit that part down. So if we would have gotten what was actually entirely filmed and written, I think that the one part people complain about would have been a lot better. But I I liked Anthony Mackie as Falcon.
hmm
I love the aspect of him being terrified of stepping up to the mantle of Captain America. And then on top of it, in a current day and age, him also like them adding the fact that he's also black, like they didn't do it in an annoying way. Like it was legit. We're like, okay, this is actually an issue. Like
yeah.
how they're phrasing it. And like there's another side story that kind of connects with that with another older gentleman, which was fucking amazing. So in turn, it helped pave the way for that, which I think is ultimately going to be a fascinating fucking. I'm really also looking forward to Captain America 4, where that's his shit.
He's
He's got to step up.
he's the he's the cap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's excellent handoff, and also big fan of Mackie too.
Oh yeah.
Because of
Yeah.
because of Civil
Eh,
War.
uh,
He was great in there in the fight sequences and all of that. I mean,
I I I would love to have been a fly on the wall because in Civil War, that's where we got the on your left. That's the origins of on your left. And I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall the very first time that Chris Evans and Anthony Mackie sat there and read the script for Endgame and saw the callback for that. Like I bet they're like even them, they're probably like those sons of bitches.
you got us good.
Ah, ah. But Ant-Man looks incredibly amazing. I'm really looking forward to Jonathan Majors as Kang. I love that he is the overarching, he's not just relegated to one movie, one and done.
Right.
He's not going to suffer the same fate as Christian Bale, which I'm not saying you make Christian Bale's character a fucking, that level, but at least give him like two or three fucking movies. He's worth two or three movies, not just 20 minutes in one movie. He's a fucking god killer.
That is very disappointing because he knocked that shit out
That
of
was
the park.
amazing. That was the best part. The best parts of the whole movie was his.
You could give Christian Bale the back of a Chef Boyardee can to read off of, and he would turn that shit into Shakespeare.
Barrow just brought some up that I didn't even think about, but it's possible. Now, depending, I mean, there was more than just them recasting the character. Like there was some behind the scenes shit that Edward Norton was none too happy about with that movie with writing credits and whatnot. So I don't know. That'd be a tall order. Like people would have to set aside some shit, and other people probably would have to not be involved for him to be okay with certain things. But all that aside, that is a very real possible. But well, I don't know because technically, Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo they're supposed to be the same. They're the same. All the shit that happened to Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo, that shit happened to him.
Yep.
So it's not like they're two different ones from different timelines. So I don't know about that particularly, but I'm sure it's fucking comic books, dude. They can fucking rewrite. They
Dude,
could do whatever they want.
they they could make it some sort of, you know, butterfly effect thing where an eyelash got dropped in instead of it being Mark Ruffalo. It's, you know, Edward Norton, or they might just pull the rug out from us entirely, and Eric Bana shows up. I would be okay with that. I love some Eric Bana, but
Now that could happen. That could happen. That could be from a different timeline. Because
yeah.
I mean, they're very clearly two different Hulks. So that could happen. Um, but yeah, the Ed Norton. I would love for them to at least acknowledge him a little bit more. Maybe have something like. It would be kind of cool if like maybe he had like some sort of internal mental dialogue that was visually represented, and maybe you could throw in Ed Norton, but that might be confusing for people who didn't see the Ed Norton one. They're like, why the fuck is he here? But
Oh,
the one thing that they never fucking did was they never brought back what's her name? Fucking Liv Tyler's Betty Ross.
oh yeah.
They were very quick to, Mark Ruffalo looks good standing next to Scarlett Johansson.
I mean, yeah.
Purple
Yeah.
Hulk Abomination. I'll tell you if they're gonna go crazy. Now, this is like James Gunn fucking crazy. But and obviously he ain't gonna be around for fucking Secret Wars unless some sort of deal was worked out and it's like, hey, you know, you can do this shit, then you're fucking done. But the I forget his official name, but there's a gray Hulk and he's like got like mob clothes on, like it's like a noir fucking mobster gray Hulk. And I'm like, you know what? Throw that one in. Fucking
Uh,
Hulk acting like fucking bogey with a cigar.
I'm trying to Italian up the Bruce Banner name, and I'm failing. Hardboiled. Now, I love some hard-boiled detective shit, so I'd be all over that. Uh, damn, I
now
did
I'll
not
tell
know
you.
that that existed.
Now I'll tell you one thing that I was surprised about to hear, and apparently it got. I don't know. Well, I don't know if it got officially confirmed. I don't want to. I don't want to say that. Um, but I had mentioned before that they had because what's his William Hurt, I think his
Yep.
name was,
Yep.
passed away. So Harrison Ford is coming in to replace the role that he played in the MCU.
He's doing
Now,
Thunderbolt.
yeah, he's doing Thunderbolt, and
Hmm.
I thought that's cool, but we're never gonna see Harrison Ford Red Hulk until they said that that's exactly what we were gonna fucking see. And I was like, okay, okay.
I gotta I gotta get my shit together and get back into some MCU because I'll spend a whole weekend watching them for that. I don't give a shit. That's great.
but like I said, I'm thoroughly aside from just the movie looking badass, meaning Ant-Man. Jonathan Majors, like that's my number one. He's been my number one guy for like a year now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Hmm.
So him being in this position in the MCU is amazing. Seeing him because he was great as He Who Remains in Loki. Like the that was the precursor for what we're gonna see in this movie.
Hmm.
And because he's going to play this character, but multiple variations of this character from different timelines. And I have a certain way. I think I know how this will end based off of what I saw in Loki, but I'm not gonna get there yet. I'll save those predictions when we're a little bit closer to that. But
Fair.
if they're gonna do what I think they're gonna do, I mean, there's a bunch of shit that's gonna happen in between that I'm not. There's no way for me to predict. But based on what I know so far and what they've done with this character, I see, and what I know comic book wise, uh, and the fact that they are doing Fantastic Four.
Mhm.
There, I think I know how Kang's story will end in the MCU. So when we get there, I'll talk more on that. But as of right now, for Ant-Man, I think he's safe. I think Cassie's obviously safe, but we will probably lose Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer. Uh, at the very least, Michelle Pfeiffer, because Michael Douglas plays the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, and he's pretty important in the comics, but they kind of got old man Hank Pym in here, so who knows?
They could they could kill him just to bring him back.
No.
I mean, there's of course they didn't do that with Rene Russo and Anthony Hopkins. So, oops.
Oops. So when that movie comes out, expect a full-on review. Now, sir, I'm gonna get to my main event here. This is what I've been looking forward to. So on Sunday, we started our Shutter Sundays in the Discord, and I've been
Very
enjoying
nice.
it, except for when the website fucks me up and it decides to turn off the moment I step away. Um,
Happens to the best of us.
I think it happens at least once per movie, at minimum once per movie. I always expect it when it's changing movies, but it's always like it's either like 20 minutes into the movie or like 10 minutes before the movie ends. But
Damn.
but last Sunday, unbeknownst to me, just by watching shit, I'm like, oh shit, they kind of have a possession theme going here. And that excited me. I know I've mentioned that I particularly enjoy possession movies, more so. I I went looking up a list because I'm like, I want to know what the top possession movies are, or what's ranked as the top. And as you cut the yeah, yeah.
Laughed my ass off when he sent that to the chat.
To be fair, that one worked out to everyone's advantage. But now I particularly enjoy the religious possession movies
Yep.
because I enjoy that. Um, it's a very specific thing to look up because I'm like there are a lot of other things that could count as a possession movie that has absolutely nothing to do with religion. Um, but I didn't get that specific. But I did find a list that was labeled the 13, and I went with that one because they went with 13. The 13 best possession horror movies. And I wanted to run down this list and thought that you see if you agreed, disagreed, and if there's anything on the list that you think should be on there that isn't.
Hit me with it. Now, I will say this. Possession movies are not my bread and butter. Now, I
Mm.
do have some. I have Lucio Fulci's The Psychic, which I'm looking forward to, but I don't think that's necessarily possession. But I have some other stuff. I've been trying to get into it a little bit. But, there's a certain itch that you have to scratch to get there, I
Yeah.
think. And there is one that might be on this list that Shudder just added with Sam Neill that I'm looking forward to watching because I've heard it's a nightmare. But
Isn't that the
maybe
one that
that'll
he
be.
did just before Mouth of Madness too?
No, he did this in '81.
Okay. I think that it was some I don't know if it was Carpenter himself or somebody else, but somebody saw Sam Neill do that and they're like, we need him in this fucking movie.
Was it called Possession?
Yes. Yeah.
That was '81. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's run down this list. And oddly enough, starting at number 13, speaking of the good man Sam Neill, at number 13, 1997's Event Horizon, which we've seen.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one. That is a good one. I don't know. Oh no, Constantine's not on there. Although I wouldn't necessarily constitute that as a possession movie. That movie has possessions in it, but it is not a possession movie. That's not the central theme of it. um, but yeah, Event Horizon, very good. Um, I don't want to say that movie's underrated because a lot of people know about it, but I think that movie at least when it came out, it got a lot of shit, but I think now it's kind of found its place in time.
The retro reviews have been kind to it,
Yes.
although I mean I like the movie enough, but and I see the appeal of it, but I think a lot of people hinge their bets on it with the fact that there was this uber gross version of the movie that we didn't get to see, and
That's
that
the
Lord
real
keeps pushing
shame.
it.
That's the
Yeah,
real shame because like I really feel that would benefit from it because I think or the things that carry that movie for me is A, Sam Neill's performance, and two,
very good.
Lawrence Fishburne. But the I mean the one scene.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that alone, I'm just like they went there. And I'm not saying that I particularly needed more of that scene, although I'm sure that that would definitely be in that cut. Um,
the
just
blood orgy.
overall, I would just have liked to have seen more.
Yeah.
Um, number 12, perfectly fitting, 1985's Demons. I mean, Bobby Rhodes, PhD pimp.
I, I don't even count it as a possession movie, but any excuse to get it on any list, yeah,
Yeah,
it,
I'm for it.
yeah,
That's the thing where I was like, I specifically was aiming more towards religious horror because that's something that, I mean, I have this weird like I really go I need to deep dive more because the idea of like zombies and demons in America versus what you see in Italian movies are really different, and like that alone interests me. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call that a full possession movie, but I mean by that right, I mean Demon Knight should be a fucking possession movie.
I, and that is, I would consider that loosely. Like, it depends on what your definition of possession
Yeah.
is, because outside source taking control of the body but not changing the body is always what I thought of it as. Because Exorcist, until a certain point, she changes, yes, but prior to that, when she does the crab walk down the steps backwards, she doesn't look any different, other than the fact her bones break every time she steps.
I think Demons is weird because I would consider that more of like I mean, yeah, you do get taken possessed of, but it's almost treated like it's an infection in
Yeah,
that movie. And in when it comes to Demon Knight, yes, you do get possessed, but I don't know if this is would be considered splitting hairs or not, but it may be weird to separate the two, but I consider that more of a temptation versus possession because they're given a choice in Demon Knight, and it's only if you choose the wrong thing do you get taken. Like there, you could very easily turn down fucking Billy Zane and you won't get taken over.
sure, yeah.
So,
And,
um,
and that falls into the religious
yeah,
possession though, because he is the or he's is he a demon or is he Satan himself? I can never remember. But
Billy Zane.
yeah,
I think he's a higher ranking demon. I don't think he's the devil himself, but like the demons that come out of the ground are like the grunts. He's kind of like a general.
oh, Lieutenant Colonel Daimoni, got it.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, yeah, I can get down with that.
Yeah. Um, but then let's see here. Now this one I've not seen. I've heard of this one. I'm hoping you've seen this, so we have something to talk about. uh, 2009's Jennifer's Body.
Is that the one with Megan Fox?
Yeah, Megan Fox. Yeah, yeah. Where she, yeah, the image is of her with the lighter burning her tongue.
Yeah, I actually have never seen it.
Okay.
And but you You probably could have guessed that because I do have that period of time of movies that I kind of glance over.
It was the tail end of the weird 2000s. There's like there's like one or two other movies on this list that are kind of in that area where I'm like I've actually kind of like there's some of these movies that I haven't seen that I've been meaning to actually watch because I roped them into the whole like Grudge and Ring and stuff like that that I don't really like.
Mm.
Um, but let's see here. Um, then after that, let's see, what was it? Yeah, okay. Number 10, 1976 Burnt Offerings.
I know the title. I know, but I can't remember if
It
I've seen
says
it.
stacked cast that includes Oliver Reed, Karen Black, Burgess Meredith,
Fuck.
Bette Davis, Betty Davis.
Oh, actually, big Oliver Reed fan. Never seen this one.
Ah, okay. Okay. Well, we will have to add that one to the list.
Karen Black's in it. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling naked right now, Ian. It's not good.
Now, this next one, it's hard to say anything bad about this movie, although I don't really feel that it belongs on this list. I think that going this route is a bit of a stretch saying it's a possession movie, but regardless, it's very difficult to talk shit about Jack Nicholson's The Shining.
In the traditional sense of the word,
Mm-hmm.
I think it. If you, all right, I'm gonna split hairs here. I know I try not to, but I'm going to. If you become overcome with madness, is that not in and of itself a form of possession? You are possessed by something that you as a normal person would not do if you temporarily are overcome with madness. Are you not possessed at that point?
I
To a
It
point.
depends. I to a point because then even though it's a very different movie, still Stephen King though, ironically, would you then say 1408 is a possession thing? Because John Cusack doesn't get possessed, but he is driven to the brink of insanity by the
Uh,
spirits of the hotel. Also another haunted hotel. Now, actually, they are kind of similar movies. They just
uh
have different stories.
Wait a minute.
But
Did Stephen King plagiarize himself? Damn it.
I,
Uh,
I think 1408 was technically a short story. So,
I I mean, I in the loose sense of that definition, I mean, yeah, I guess because I don't think I've seen 1408, so I can't comment on it. But Dreamcatcher, yeah,
well,
that would.
well, that was aliens though.
Oh yeah, that was. All right, hang on. Bring it back.
Well,
Bring it back.
the only thing that I will give maybe partial credit to a possession film for The Shining, but you have to go outside of The Shining though and go to Doctor Sleep because there's the scene where Ewan McGregor as now the grown-up Danny Torrance go.
I hadn't seen it
uh,
yet.
okay, fair enough. Fair
We're
enough.
watching it at the end of the month. I'm holding
Fair
off.
enough. But there's a scene, I won't say what happens. I think I've mentioned it before on the show though.
And I
But
probably forgot. So
yeah. But it's a scene that on paper would scare the shit out of anybody, but when you see it and the actors that have to participate in this scene, I honestly, I mean, I understand maybe some people didn't fucking like it, but I'm like, you couldn't have like for the monumental task that was written on that paper, you could not have asked for a better setup, like performance. Um, but the facts that are given in that scene do I think you could stretch to maybe say The Shining was a possession. Um not a full takeover, but something was claimed at the end of it.
Oh,
So that's as far as I could see maybe it being a possession movie. But like I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with The Shining. So I
well,
just I'm curious as to how it got on this list.
well, I mean, possession is a supernatural thing. That's most of the time what possession movies are categorized under is a supernatural thriller,
Hmm.
supernatural horror. Because I mean, if you get down to the nitty gritty with it, Psycho's a possession movie because Norman
This
gets
is
possessed
true.
by his mother, and that's actually said in the movie. I think that she possessed and took him over at the end. So if you're getting down to the technicality of
Yeah.
it, I mean, yeah, that would technically. But what we think of possession movie is uh religious takeover, madness takes over, The Lighthouse. Fuck, that could be a possession movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, D. You know what, Sparrow? I think you fucking hit the nail on the head with that statement right there.
Yeah.
I did not even think about that because that really is a core of both that and Doctor Sleep. And yeah, that would count definitely as a possession.
Yeah.
So, and what D said is kind of what I'm alluding at. So yeah, definitely, yeah. Um,
Okay. We're creating we're molding a definition at this point out of it
mhm.
because we're trying to find a common thread between them all, at least on this list. So in that case, yeah, I guess demons technically is possession because the mask on a simple cut took her over. There was no blood on the mask. It was the mask itself that was the idol that took the person over, and then the person was able to infect everybody. Boom, there we go. We did it, ladies and
Works on
gentlemen. We got him.
it. We got. All right. Now, this next one, uh, before I even looked up a list, when I was debating, do I really try to go specific religious possession, or do I just go general possession? Because this was the movie that immediately popped into my head when I was like, okay, this is definitely a possession movie, but it's not really a religious uh possession movie. Again, another one. How can you talk shit of the OG Evil Dead?
I think it's a possession movie.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
that's they pretty much they steal your soul and they take over your body.
eh,
That's
and
what the Deadites do.
and by that regard, Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 2013, the only one I get. No, Army of Darkness is a possession movie too because it is actually personified.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't the evilness of the Ash became its own. He he fucking Michael
You're
Keaton multiplicity to himself.
you're a good Ash, and I'm bad Ash. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's that.
um
So far, I'm loving this list.
no. Number 7. This is another one that, see, this one I did not see. I roped it. I remember seeing the trailers for this and I was like, I kind of want to see this, but this was again the Ring Grudge era, so I cast it aside. Two,
Sure.
2005, The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
I actually think I like that one.
I don't think I've heard anything bad about it. I think I put a negative stigma on it just because of the time frame that it came out, which is, to be fair, that's not a fair thing to do. But
It it did come out at the time that a lot of American remakes of Eastern horror were coming out, and it was easy to lose them in the fold.
oh, is that who that is? Is this if I'm reading this right, it's saying that the Jennifer Carpenter is in this, and isn't she Dexter's sister? I think that's who plays Dexter's sister in the series. I could be wrong on that.
Huh. You know,
Hmm.
never seen Dexter.
Good series. I think seasons 1 through 4 are the absolute best. There's some winter seasons afterwards, but they're kind of hit and miss. A lot of people didn't like the ending. I appreciated the ending for what it was. It could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse.
Fair.
But season 4 to me, I think is like that is a must. That is exactly season 4. Season 4 is the absolute pinnacle of that fucking show right there. Because essentially, you know, this doesn't spoil anything of the story, but essentially what each season is that because obviously you know Dexter is a serial killer.
Yeah.
But he's also a blood splatter analyst for Miami police.
Right.
So a lot of the times the main story of each season, despite all the tiny shit going on, it's each season is Dexter versus another serial killer. And
Love it.
in season 4, John Lithgow is the one against him. And I that season alone gave me so much fucking respect for John Lithgow. I'm like, I did not know he was capable of some crazy ass shit like that. It literally made me think that my dad could be a serial killer.
That's that sounds like a show on Investigation Discovery.
Yeah.
I
Like
think my
it
dad's a serial killer.
yeah. Next on Maury Povich. But no,
I think everybody
I've
forgot that
told my
Von.
dad.
Oh, oh, I just had a stroke there. You finish while I try to get my words together.
I've told that to my dad before, which he would never that's a show he would never watch. But I've told him that because my dad, although there are certain things he just won't watch, um, he comes from a performing and actor background, so he can appreciate good acting, even though there's some things he just won't watch.
Yeah.
Um, I he particularly hates horror. He hates and he just doesn't like it at all. So a lot of interesting conversations between me because he'll ask. He's like I said, he's not a prude. He'll ask me, be like, "What'd you talk about? Which movies you talk about today?" And I'll tell him all about it, and he'd be like,
Y'all still got to watch American Rickshaw, and I
Yeah.
need his reaction.
But anyway, I explained the John Lithgow character to him, and I'm like, I know you will never watch it, but I'm like, it's literally you if you were a serial killer, and he was just like, there was a part of him that was kind of intrigued, but he's just like, I'm not gonna fucking watch that.
Oh my god. I'm trying to think how that conversation goes, and it's awkward anyway. But people forget, and Sparrow brought up a good point. John Lithgow is kind of like Leslie Nielsen in the sense that when they do a serious role, like John Lithgow was the bad guy in Cliffhanger.
Yeah, that I always forget that until I'm actually watching the movie because honestly, the first time I remember seeing John Lithgow was Third Rock from the Sun. And
Everybody
that's
was, I think.
yeah, and so that's who he is. And I mean, I know he did the Shrek shit, but I never watched Shrek, so.
Oh, and the Twilight Zone movie. He did the remake of
Oh
Nightmare at
yeah.
20,000 Feet.
And I think he was in the Pet Cemetery remake as well.
He was not in a negative role, but like he can do a negative, like an antagonist, very well. That's the scary part. That's why I always compare him to Leslie Nielsen because people forget Leslie Nielsen played the bad guy in Creepshow, and
Oh yeah.
he does a great job. It's kind of scary.
I will heavily suggest, sir, that you I wish I could just say only watch season 4, but there are certain payoffs that happen due to John Lithgow that are things that happened in earlier seasons that it's really kind of a complete package. And but if you didn't want to watch anything past season 4, totally fine. But I Jonathan Lithgow creeps me the fuck out in that season. Like it is something completely fucking different. I don't know what it is, but that's one of those performances where I literally have goosebumps just thinking about some of the scenes that he does.
Fair. I will put it on the list to hopefully get to, even though our lists are like
The only this is absolutely no spoiler, but to give you an idea, he's one of those people who the crazy evil insanity versus the facade he puts on in public. you see that duel, that fight, and he turns on a dime.
Like oh shit, Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet.
I was thinking, I mean, you're not wrong. Think of a way more intense, fucking creepy, not necessarily the same motives, but a much more heavily intense, like that would even make you feel uncomfortable. What's his name? Fuck. The dude from Stepfather.
Oh, Terry O'Quinn.
Yeah, that role. Think of that role, but fuck.
I just immediately go back to wait, who am I here? Which is on the poster, and I never even noticed that. Okay, all right.
You know, now that I think about it, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if that was some inspiration for that season. I would not be the least bit surprised.
Well,
Anyway,
that was based off a true story too, so that's even worse.
number 6 on the list is a movie that I know a lot about, but I've never actually watched because I know what happens in the beginning. 2018's Hereditary. One of these days I will watch it, but it's just like I know it hits that one thing,
And
that
the
I'm
phrasing you just used right there was really bad.
yeah, I thought about that after I said
uh,
um
I'll have to hear the rest of the list. I like Hereditary, but
I is it would you consider it a possession movie? I've never thought of it. I mean, like I said, I've never seen it. But and I'm not saying it's like this either, but I've like if somebody were to sit down and be like, "What do you think about Hereditary?" I wouldn't go necessarily possession, but I'm like, I for some reason I'm leaning towards something more like a Pumpkinhead, but not that, obviously.
if I tell you what I think it is, it will spoil.
Fair enough.
It'll spoil it for me because it is. All right, I'm gonna skirt around this as best I can. It is a possession movie in the sense. It is a possession movie in the. Can y'all hear the dogs?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Oh, very good, Mike. It's a possession movie in the sense that we talked about earlier with the spiral into madness slowly taking over. Because unless I'm misremembering, I don't think there's something as explicit as demons or of the possession. So it's a little bit more subtle. It's like 25% possession and then 75% the other. And you don't know about the other until you get towards the end of the movie, and then you start freaking out because of what's happening. So, yes, it is enough to fit on this list if we're going to count The Shining. But I'm interested to see what the other ones were, because I would actually probably put The Shining over Hereditary like 10 times out of 9.
This one, okay, so not who I thought made this one. I feel like I've heard. I don't think I'm pretty sure I haven't seen this movie. Although this still image of it kind of makes me think that I have, but I might have roped this in the same category, even though it was a tad bit later. But 2000 number 5 is 2012's Sinister, which was a Scott Derrickson film and had our boy Ethan Hawke. Let's see who else is in here. I don't think they say anything else. In the picture is just of Ethan Hawke.
He was great in Glass Onion.
Mm-hmm. I thought just based with the title, I thought this might have been one of those fucking James Wan movies, but it's not.
Wait, really? I thought it was a James Wan movie.
He's Insidious.
Yes, I haven't seen Sinister. I've only seen Insidious.
Okay. um, number 4. Now this one, I could talk about this movie all day, and I think you could too. Number 4, 1990s, The Exorcist 3.
100% a possession movie. Ain't no arguing that one, and it's great.
Mhm. The only debate ever comes up with this movie is the variation of the endings. I know a lot of people talk shit about the added shit at the end. I personally like that just because I think it's just cool. But I can understand the counter argument of it. But overall, though, like I said, I didn't realize how much I'd love this movie. Like I watched it and I was just like, this is amazing. I love The Exorcist 3. I don't give a shit about the other movies. I just want to watch this movie.
I think it became my favorite one after a while too. And we will watch the Legion cut at some point, just to see what that is like. But my only request is it has to have the scene in it, which I know that's in it because it was way before the ending, and it has to have the train station, which I think is like one. I'm pretty sure Michael Mann watched The Exorcist 3 before he wrote Heat, because Vincent Hanna in Heat actually basically describes the scene in Exorcist 3 that he's in a waiting room with all the people he couldn't save, and that scene alone for the movie is heartbreaking, horrifying, hilarious because Sam Jackson's in there too. It's everything rolled into one ball of emotion, and love it. I think when we talked about the movie, I probably went on for about 15 minutes talking about how much I love that scene.
Just the best part of the movie is the relationship between the two main characters. And that's like you still have a possession movie on top of that.
Yeah.
like that's how good it like you don't even care what the fuck's going on in the movie. You're like, I want to spend time with these guys. They're talking about carp and shit.
I'm trying to remember, was The Changeling with George C. Scott also a possession movie? Because it's like George C. Scott towards the end of his career apparently just went ham on some possession movies.
I mean, when you fucking hit it out of the park, you're like, well, this might be my new thing.
Yeah.
All right, number 3. I know this one will put a smile on your face.
If it's The
And
Changeling, I'm going to be upset.
no, but we needed some Johnny C. We needed some Johnny C. 1987's Prince of Darkness is number 3.
Yeah, 1,000 times, yeah.
I mean, God damn, that's a good movie. I'm just looking at the one only still image is the fucking fucking, let's see, what's his fucking name? Victor Wong. That's what it is. It's Donald Pleasance and Victor Wong just over the book, just looking. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, obviously that doesn't tell you anything about the movie, but still, just like, you know what it is.
It's got Donald Pleasance doing what he does best, and that's all you need to know. And the soundtrack kills probably the if you're a fan of Hotline Miami and Carpenter Brute, they actually sample in I think it's Welcome to Midwich Valley. Yeah, I think that's what the name of it is. They sampled the this is a recording from when the devil's speaking to you, but also the scene where the guy who looks like he belongs in an 80s new wave band with the beard, when he gets eaten alive by bugs and he's standing outside the church saying, I have news for you and you're not going to like it. Like, that is some scary fucking shit in like the most plain way possible. The music I don't think is particular. Oh no, it is tense there. The whole thing is tense.
I completely forgot about that line, and now that you think about it, you know what it made me going back to Ant-Man and Wasp here
Mhm.
for a quick second. There is a scene in that trailer where fucking Jonathan Majors is looking at Paul Rudd and he's like referring to his daughter and he's like, "You may not want her to look at it." Like he's about to do some shit to
Yeah.
to fuck someone. She may not want to watch this, and I'm just like, that's that level right there.
There's something foreboding about that. Like it sounds very childish the way that he says it to, I got news and you're not going to like it. Like
Mhm.
that's something you would hear on the playground as a kid, but this is from a grown-ass man standing in a dark alley while bugs completely sever his hand from his body. And when you realize what's happening, it just makes the whole thing worse. And I'm surprised that made number 3 on the list too, with some of the other entries on there, and I'm glad it did because it is one of the most underrated John Carpenter movies in his entire catalog.
Number two, which I expected this movie to be high up on the list. Um, I'm a little happy to see that it's only number two. I always call bullshit when people put this as number one, because it just seems like the safe bet. The OG Exorcist, of course.
Yeah.
Um, I go back and forth with this movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just like I don't feel that I get what I get out of three, although it is kind of a companion piece, so it. But
Mm.
uh the only thing I like is the internal struggle with the fucking the menace, the father there, the younger, not the older one. The one that I believe is in three, right? He's friends with,
Karis.
yeah. Um the whole thing with his mom and everything, like, and just like he's really the only interesting factor of the movie to me. Like the shit that happens with Reagan, as obviously that's the highlight of the fucking movie, but it's like it's not that I don't like it. I think it's just a little too dated for me, which is weird because, like I said, I'll love the fuck out of an old black and white movie, but for some reason, something about it, I think it's because it's been parodied so much that like I can't help but think of it as a joke.
I think it harkens back to the expectations that people set for you for
Mm-hmm.
something, and that
That's
and
what
that
that's what
absolutely
happened the
kills
first
it.
time I watched it, is because my mom set it up and she's like, "This is the most horrifying movie ever fucking made," and it's like I understand that at the time when it came out,
Mm-hmm.
totally understand that, but when I watched it, like I said, I had already watched all the fucking Friday the 13th and all and it's up for debate on what's scarier than that or the other. It's whatever, but it was the fact that I'm used to like grotesque impalements, dismemberments, head crushings. Like I'm used to I'm already desensitized to all that. And then when I just see her doing the scene with the crucifix, I'm like, you laugh. You know what I mean? Like it's
It's an uncomfortable laugh because I don't think I've ever voluntarily laughed at someone stabbing themselves in the vagina with a crucifix.
I mean, the only thing that made that uncomfortable is that I wanted to laugh harder, but I couldn't because I was sitting next to my mom.
Okay, well now that's funny. That's fair. Uh, uh, Real quick sidebar because I want to absolutely slam the Raspberry Awards. George C. Scott was nominated for a Golden Raspberry for Worst Actor for Exorcist 3. I don't think the acting's terribly bad in that movie from anybody.
Oh, like I mean, the only thing that I can see why people would dislike that movie when it came out is they were once again expecting what they saw in one. And while like I said, it is kind of a companion piece to one, they're very different movies. Like the possession that happens in one versus whatever ending you choose to watch at the end of, it's different because like Reagan's going out for scare factor. The possession in Exorcist 3 is more cerebral because it's like he's not puking up the pea soup and shit. He's just sitting there talking to you, saying creepy shit. Like he's trying to fuck with you. Not to say that they didn't try to fuck, Reagan didn't try to fuck with you, but it was more on the gore horror aspect versus this is more like I don't need to do all the theatrics. I just me talking is creepy enough.
Which yeah, I do like that they mimic that because what she says to Father Karras at the end of the movie is kind of fucked. And the first
Mm.
one, yeah, okay, all right, that's fair enough. I'm also, I don't, you know me in award shows, like I don't care for them because I think they're all political anyway. They nominated Michael Caine for Dress to Kill in 1980 as well, so fuck them. They're all dead to me.
The only thing that I did see, not that I give a shit, and I didn't watch it. I just saw a clip of it on YouTube. I guess the Golden Globes were the other night, which again, who gives a fuck? But
Yep.
our boy Short Round, he won for
Yeah.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I was like, good for you, dude. Like, I mean, I'm sorry that it's just a Golden Globe. You deserve way more than that, but I'm glad that you're getting some sort of recognition because he was amazing in that movie.
I'm when awards are justified, I
Mhm.
I get down with them. But it was kind of like when DiCaprio, it took until The Revenant for him to win, and he probably should have won way before then for some of the stuff that he did. Hell, for any Tarantino movie that he was in, he's pretty much gold. So,
I I mean, all of that stuff, yeah, but shit, even the one he did with the Tom Hanks, Catch Me If You Can, fucking
oh
amazing,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It, mm. The only award show I would say you should care about is probably Screen Actors Guild because that's
Yeah,
them voting on each other,
each other.
and that's totally fine. But
Mhm.
having some outside party that thinks that they know more, and you can't even look up the names of the people who vote,
Yeah.
that should go ahead and tell you more than anything.
um, Now the number one on this list, the only thing that topped The Exorcist, which, like I said, like I would have called bullshit immediately. I would have chosen a different list if
That's
Exorcist
such a
was number
cop
one.
out.
But I mean, before we even started getting into the list, you fucking called it. Possession is number one.
I
I
had a
mean, it's the
sneaking
fucking
suspicion.
title of the movie.
Do you know anything about it?
I only know that it's Sam Neill, and there is like like one small scene in a living room that I've seen a clip of 100 times, but it's like the same 10-second clip I've always seen of that movie.
It's on Shutter, and I'm willing to watch it. I've been saving it because we've been waiting to get the disc copy of it, but I don't think anybody's actually putting it out right now. I have been told that it is one of the best movies ever, like hands down horror wise, which is already setting my expectations high. But I can kind of get around it because, to be academic, that the movie was written as a metaphor for divorce, and I was like, a possession movie that's written as a metaphor for divorce? That sounds actually like it could be something that has some, again, tangible pieces to, but also it's not short. It's like a 2 hour long movie, and it's got early Sam Neill in it, which if you've seen the Omen movies, he's in those and he's good in that. So, and I think it's foreign too. So it has the early 80s gusto of, like I don't think it's Italian, I think it's Polish, but that's that's already a good start because as we found out, early 80s movies didn't give a shit. So we could be in for a really
I
good
almost
time.
I didn't know about what you were saying about the metaphor for divorce. Like I've not heard that about the movie, but if it is, uh, I don't know why this popped into my head, but and I haven't seen this movie either. But I'm willing to bet that if Possession is that, which there's no reason to think that it wouldn't be, but if it is in fact that, for some reason, right after, I also want to watch the Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson A Marriage Story movie afterwards and just be like, y'all don't even know. Like she hasn't even like you say she's ripped your heart up, but did she really?
What now? I'm glad this one was number one because this is actually a very good talking point. trying to classify Possession, critics drew parallels between Roman Polanski's Repulsion, which I've watched and it is a very tough watch at times, and David Cronenberg's The Brood, which is also kind of hard to watch at times because if you haven't seen it and you don't know what it's about, go into it blind and just enjoy the crazy ass ride you're going to be on. Apparently, they can't exactly classify it. So, Possession movie called Possession, that's the easiest route for them to take with it. The fact that they draw parallels to Repulsion, though, have you ever seen Repulsion? I don't know how deep in Roman Polanski's filmography anybody's gotten here.
I know more about the man himself than any of the movies he's made. Let's put it that way.
You've seen Rosemary's Baby, though, haven't you?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Repulsion is less on the supernatural side, and it's straight up psychological horror. And there are some uncomfortable scenes where nothing happens, but you are uncomfortable nonetheless. If The Brood, which has one of the most what the fuck twist endings ever, comes up, and those two are merged together, this might be my 2023 movie of the year. I'm very excited for it. Not going to set my sights to the heavens for it or anything, but it's Sam Neill.
Yeah, he's not really ever let us down. Although, well, okay, I can't even say I tried to watch that fucking Jurassic Park Dominion. I didn't even make it to Sam Neill, so I can't say anything on that aspect of it. But yeah, and I've watched all the other Jurassic Park movies, but for some reason I started that movie. I got about 25 minutes in, and I'm just like, no, there's just something about this.
Something's not clicking with it. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't watched the whole, or I haven't even started it yet. So I'm glad to know that the goal is to try to get to Sam Neill.
I didn't even hate the other Jurassic World movies. Like I mean, obviously, like I prefer the OG shit, but like Chris Pratt's fine. Bryce Dallas Howard, I like her. There are aspects that they do in Jurassic World that should have been in the original Jurassic Park movies, but whether it was budget or time or the way people's mindsets were, and you're like, you can't film that shit. This isn't a carnivore movie. But now that I think about it, I would have loved. I really that's another fly in the wall moment. I really hope that there was a moment during the shooting of Jurassic Park that somebody walked up to Spielberg and be like, "You cannot make a fucking carnivore movie." And I just want to know what mental processes did Spielberg go through hearing such a statement. Because he knows what that movie is. Did he take it as an insult, or did he take it as like, you're right?
Don't take it as an insult. Take it as a moment to be like, wow, I really have scraped the bottom of the barrel of film at this point.
But were there any movies on that weren't mentioned that you thought, like, not saying where you think they should fall, but just were there anything that you thought maybe should have been on the list somewhere that wasn't mentioned?
The Beyond.
Yeah,
your bottom half of the list that could have fit in anywhere because I mean it ultimately is a possession movie and it's a metaphor for death and living and dying. I mean that's usually what possession comes with because there's a fear of the unknown. The Exorcist, I wouldn't necessarily go deep diving on what it's about because it's religious horror, but I mean at the end of the day that movie is toying with what is the afterlife and can it reach out and touch you. That's at least how I always kind of looked at it. Beyond, I mean, if you go with the technical route, Suspiria is too, just for the ending scene alone. But I think that's a solid list. That's a list that will get you to, especially a Polish 1981 2-hour and 4-minute Sam Neill driven movie, which makes no damn sense that he would be in that. That would get you to the point where you're going to go and watch The Beyond. Solaris. Yeah. Sunshine,
Mm.
which is kind of that you could double feature that with Event Horizon. Actually, it's not really possession per
Do
se,
you,
but it fits the
I
definition.
I'm trying I'm trying to remember the exact things that happen. I don't remember if this would be a possession movie or a creature movie. I don't remember. Does the ogre count?
Yeah, the sect counts and the church counts.
No.
So all the demons movies stayed consistent. The only one I think didn't was Black Demons, and that
Oh,
one
the church,
wasn't.
yeah. Fuck, man, I really liked the church. I every time I forget about that movie and it gets brought up, I think of the scene where the crucifix part falls through the floor and the blue light. Fucking great.
It's
Great.
so good. Mahele Sawat is the same guy that did Cemetery Man. That was our like surprise 2 a.m. movie that we were all like wide ass awake for because we were like, damn, this is really good. Yeah, I'm. I want to revisit the church too, and actually we were gonna have it on the 24-hour, but the time slot didn't work for it, and we didn't want to run the church at 10 a.m. after you'd already or 10 p.m. after you'd already sat through Demons and Demons 2, and you were riding that Demons high.
Demon, I mean the Demons 1, 2 and the church. That's a triple feature in my book. I'm because it's like you get ramped up by 1, you get lulled in with the coolness of 2, and then even though the church is probably the slowest of the 3,
It's
it
still good.
it's good. It's fucking solid. Um, there's only 2 movies that come to mind that I thought should be on the list. One, uh, I think it's one that counts, but I don't think it should be considered at all a best possession movie. But it's just kind of one of those, if we're going to go with the running gag that it counts. Jason Goes to Hell is technically a possession movie.
I Ian, there ain't no technical about it. That actually is a possession movie. Damn it.
hmm
Uh, what? Hang on. Halloween Ends is a possession movie.
That's true. Um,
Halloween 6 is a possession movie.
the one that I'm somewhat serious about. Now, I'm not saying the best, I don't know. And again, this is toying around with the idea of what possession is.
Sure.
This leans more towards mental illness type possession, but I think the biggest debate with this movie would be if it's a possession movie based on the ending, which even though it's a really old movie, I'm not going to say what it is because it's one of those movies that I think is really good and you should go in if you are at all possible able to go in without knowing what happens. That's the best way to watch the movie. But I forget exactly. I should look up what year it was. I think it was definitely in the 90s though. It might have been early 2000s, but I'm pretty sure it was 90s. Richard Gere, Edward Norton, Primeval.
Uh,
Because it fits in with the religious aspect, but
Primal Fear,
Primal Fear, yes, Primal
96.
Fear, 96,
I
not
do.
Primeval, Primal Fear, yes, my bad.
I have seen that, and yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that that was a Richard Gere is fucking awesome. He was the one in the Mothman prophecies too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm from West Virginia, so that kind of stupid, but it's essentially like the world has fucking Sasquatch, West Virginia has Mothman.
You know what? I like Mothman.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love some cryptid research, so I won't go to West
Um,
Virginia for that reason.
but no, yeah. Primal Fear though, yeah. That might have been the first time I ever saw Edward Norton. Honestly,
Fight Club.
Fight Club. Yeah. Well, and you said this was 96, so this would have been before Fight Club. I saw Fight Club late, not super
Yeah.
late. I know that my brother saw it in the theater, and there was one time we were sitting outside, and he was like telling me about it, and I thought it sounded pretty cool. But I didn't see Fight Club until maybe like a month or two after home release.
Yeah, that makes yeah. Actually, yeah. I think I was in the 2000s when I saw it as well. And then I went and read the book as part of my college experience. And
That dude's, I don't know where it is or if it's a collection of stories. I don't know what it is. It's fucking, what's his name? Paul Palahniuk, Chuck
Chuck
Palahniuk.
Palahniuk,
Yeah.
Haunted.
There's some story that he has written, and it has terrified me, the idea of it, to the point where if I'm ever in a pool, I always pay attention to where the drains on the floor are.
You you are referring to the story Guts, which is the opening story in Haunted, a collection of short story. It's a short story cycle. I did my fun fact, Ian. I did my one of my college workshops on that book.
Oh, like I've not even read this. I just know that that happens, and it's oh, like because like I remember being in the pool with like my friends and stuff, and remember seeing them do that, like for whatever reason, like they'd sink to the bottom and then like they'd sit on the drain, ha ha ha, and it was just like that was before I knew about that story. But then like whenever I heard that story, I just think of how many times I've seen people do it, and I freak out. And now I yeah, exactly. I don't. Whenever I'm in a pool, I don't go anywhere near a drain.
Well, I also don't think you're going into people's pools to jack it as well. So that was what caused yeah. So I think you're probably. Do you know that story was published in Playboy before it was published in the book? I forgot that you have to take Playboy serious as as a
Publication.
literary magazine because they
Yeah.
actually do publish good stuff in there.
Hefner had a few good ideas. I'm not saying all of them were winners, but I mean, I think his W's speak for themselves.
God, that honestly though, I'm glad you brought that book up. It is actually one of my favorites because of how funny it actually is. Like if you when you take away the horror aspect of it, it's comedy. But
Yeah.
I recommend reading it. Read it
I
on
mean,
a empty stomach.
just some of the lines from Fight Club, like I get the man's sense of humor. Like just the I remember seeing him in an interview, and he was talking about a scene in Fight Club, and it's the grade school line.
Oh,
And he was like, that was not the original line, but they did not know. Like, they're like, this movie's not coming out if you put in the original line. And so he had to like go. There's various takes of her saying different crazy shit, and then they landed on what's in the movie. And I'm like, I like this guy.
he he's a he's an interesting fellow. I think Haunted was the one that he wrote after his I think his dad got murdered, and he was the deciding factor on if the person who murdered his dad got the electric chair or not. Like some absolutely heavy shit, and so I think he wrote that one in response to it, or that might have been that might have been Survivor, the one he wrote before this. It's serious shit, but like, how do you go from something as serious as that to a book that is making fun of reality TV?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
But let me see here. But that's the list. That's about all I got. Do we have anything that we need to announce, or what do we got going on until the next show? I know I kept to my word, and the game streams have come back. Uh I took down that fucking Kabuki Quantum Soul or Quantum Fighter.
That was
Uh
awesome.
yeah, that was something. And then I started the Sega Superman Man of Steel, which is surprisingly a relatively decent game. Like I said, you just need a lot of patience, and That fucking Subway Shuffle level. Oh God, I dub it the Subway Shuffle because you pretty much have to dance your way through the whole fucking thing.
I'm glad you went back because I missed watching the streams because when I'm working in particular, that's the best. That because I get to hear some classic tunes and I get to hear some good commentary. So glad to have you back, sir.
My plan is kind of just do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't want to do a game stream just before this, because I need my brain. But yeah, that shall continue. That shall continue. Superman will be played again tomorrow until I fucking beat it.
And I'll actually get to sit down and watch it. I think so. I'm happy about that because I missed it earlier.
But do you got anything that you need to announce or anything?
Um, as far as my game streams as well, the hiatus continues. There's too much going on at the moment to really get into, but I will be coming back. I got to finish Siphon Filter. I can't leave y'all hanging with the third to last stage.
More taser face.
We need more taser. We need more taser face. Yes. That'll be coming back, and I am hoping for I've got some big plans as well for some longer streams eventually. It's just going to be a matter of getting my shit together to do it. But we have, like Ian said on the last show, we have big plans for 2023, and there's been a whole lot of planning stage stuff going on that I'm trying to get through. So once we're back in a good spot, I'll bring it back, and maybe Ian, we can finally do a co-stream at some point.
I reinstalled Turtles, so I'm ready.
That's what I'm talking about.
My only request that I call dibs is that I get to be Casey Jones because I really like playing as Casey Jones.
Totally fine. I'm okay with that. 110%. The writing section of our Discord. I have been toying with it. I am going to write up something for Ruggiero Deodato for our in memorandum, but also because we never got to do Cannibal Holocaust 1 year later, and I have some things to say, appropriate things to say about it. So, and then tonight at 9:30, which is in 5 minutes because I just realized what time it was, we're continuing Slasher Week, our collaboration with Story Reality with the snowboard slasher from 2001, Shredder.
That's right. You did mention that earlier to me. Yes.
Grab you something cold to drink and grab you something to snack on, and let's do some shredding.
Word. All right. Well, I'm Punk Rock Ian. That's Gabe. Hope you all enjoyed the show. We will see you next week. And like I said, if you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord. If you need to get in the Discord, holler at us. The information's down below. And there's always things going on in there. So until next time, later.